When my daughter died, I thought the worst was behind me, until I got a call from her doctor. I found something in her blood work, Mr. Patterson. You need to come to my office immediately. And please, whatever you do, don't tell your son-in-law. I think you might be in danger too. One question flashed through my mind. What could be so terrible that a doctor would call me instead of the police? But when I walked into that office and saw the test results with my own eyes, I froze. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you're watching from in the comments. I stood at the cemetery gates, watching the last mourners drift toward their cars. The autumn wind cut through my coat, but I barely felt it. My daughter Melissa was in the ground now, 41 years old, gone. Derek, my son-in-law, shook hands with the pastor near the grave. His shoulders shook with what looked like grief. He dabbed his eyes with a handkerchief, accepted embraces from Melissa's colleagues. Perfect performance. That's what I was beginning to realize. Then I saw her, a woman in a dark coat, standing just beyond the row of headstones. Young, maybe 30, blonde hair pulled back tight. Derek broke away from the pastor and moved toward her. Their heads bent together, and even from this distance, their body language screamed intimacy. His hand found the small of her back. She leaned in, urgent, intense. Nothing about that interaction belonged at a funeral. I started walking toward them. By the time I reached the spot, the woman had vanished between the headstones. Derek turned, and his face transformed instantly, grief sliding back into place like a mask he'd perfected. "Dad." His voice cracked just right. "I can't believe she's really gone." Who was that woman? A flash of irritation crossed his features before disappearing. Just someone from Melissa's office, paying respects. She wasn't at the service. Derek sighed, rubbing his temples. "Dad, I'm exhausted. Can we not do this now?" I let it drop. 32 years as an insurance fraud investigator taught me when to push and when to observe. I watched him walk back to the limousine, phone already in his hand before he cleared the gate. The next few hours passed in a blur of casseroles and condolences at Derek and Melissa's house, but I kept noticing things. Derek's phone never left his hand. He'd type rapidly, then pause, read, and delete. Type again, delete again. His eyes would dart around the room, checking if anyone was watching. He never saw me watching from the kitchen doorway. Around 8, the house finally emptied. Derek announced he was going upstairs to rest, his voice thick with exhaustion. I heard his footsteps overhead, pacing, then his muffled voice. Animated. Nothing like the broken widower he'd played all day. My phone rang. Dr. Catherine Reyes, Melissa's oncologist. "Mr. Patterson, I need to speak with you urgently." "Catherine, if this is about the medical bills." She cut me off, her usually warm voice tight and formal. "It's not about bills. Tomorrow, 9 a.m., my office. Come alone. Don't tell Derek you're meeting me." "I don't understand." "You will. Just promise me. This is important." I promised. Questions multiplied in my mind like embers in dry grass. Sleep wouldn't come. Around midnight, I found myself in Melissa's old room, the guest room now, filled with Derek's golf equipment and boxes of his paperwork. I sat on the bed where my daughter used to read Nancy Drew novels, and I started remembering. 4 months ago, Melissa had called me late at night. "Dad, something's wrong. I'm tired all the time. Headaches. Derek says I'm just stressed from work." She'd finally seen a doctor. The diagnosis came back as a rare blood disorder. Treatable, they said, but she'd need careful medication management. Derek had taken charge of her pills, organizing them into daily containers, making sure she never missed a dose. Such a devoted husband, everyone said. So attentive. Then her condition worsened. Rapidly, the doctors were puzzled. They adjusted medications, ran more tests. Nothing helped. 3 weeks ago, Melissa collapsed in the kitchen. She never woke up. Natural complications, the hospital said. Sometimes these conditions progress unexpectedly, but something nagged at me. Melissa had been getting better before Derek started managing her medication. I remembered her voice on the phone 2 months ago. "I don't know, Dad. Some days I feel fine. Then Derek gives me my evening pills and I'm exhausted again." Dawn light crept through the window, gray and cold. I hadn't moved from the bed, My old investigator's notepad lay open on my lap, filled with dates, observations, inconsistencies. My handwriting looked different, sharper, more focused. The shaky grief scrawl from the past week had disappeared. I checked my watch. 6 hours, until my meeting with Dr. Reyes. I walked to my bag and pulled out Melissa's medical records. The hospital had given them to me as next of kin since Derek had been too distraught to handle paperwork. I'd barely glanced at them before, too consumed by loss to process the details. Now I read with different eyes. Blood toxicology report from her final hospital admission. Elevated levels of anticoagulants, far higher than prescribed dosage. The note from the attending physician caught my attention. Unusual accumulation pattern. Recommend investigation into medication compliance. Recommend investigation. But no investigation had happened. Derek had been too grief-stricken. The hospital had been too busy. Everyone had moved on. Everyone except me. I stared at that line until the words blurred. Medication doesn't accumulate like this by accident. The thought arrived, fully formed, delivered by 3 decades of investigating suspicious insurance claims. I knew premeditation when I saw it. I knew the difference between bad luck and deliberate poisoning. Someone had been giving Melissa extra doses. Someone who controlled her medication. I reached for my coffee, realized I was still holding the cold cup from yesterday. My hands were steady now. Not the trembling hands of a grieving father, but the steady hands of an investigator with a purpose. Upstairs, Derek's alarm went off. I heard him moving around, starting his morning routine. In a few hours, he'd come downstairs with his widower's face on, and I'd have to pretend I still believed it. But first, I needed to hear what Dr. Reyes had discovered. I came downstairs at 7:30 to find Derek in the kitchen making breakfast. Eggs, toast, fresh coffee. The domestic scene perfectly staged. He smiled when he saw me, but his eyes were on his phone, lying face down beside the stove. "Good morning, Dad. You look tired. Did you sleep at all?" I poured coffee, keeping my movements casual. "I have some errands today. Bank, paperwork, Melissa's accounts." He glanced up, interested. "Oh?" "Just boring administrative things. Should be back this afternoon." "Perfect." His smile widened. "When you get back, we should talk about the house, Melissa's assets, planning for the future." "Sure. This afternoon." He turned back to the eggs, humming softly. "I'll make your favorite dinner. Pot roast." I took my coffee to the table, watching his reflection in the window over the sink. The moment he thought I wasn't looking, his face went blank. He picked up his phone, typed something quickly, and smiled. A real smile. Nothing like the careful expression he wore for me. 20 minutes later, I backed out of the driveway. In the rearview mirror, I saw him standing at the window, phone pressed to his ear, animated and laughing. Not even a trace of grief. Dr. Reyes's office was in the Houston Medical Center, a sprawling complex of hospitals and clinics. Her assistant was waiting for me in the lobby. No pleasantries, just a swift escort to a private consultation room on the 4th floor. Catherine entered 30 seconds later, looking like she hadn't slept in days. She locked the door behind her. "Thank you for coming, Mr. Patterson. What I'm about to show you will be difficult. Just show me." She hesitated, her hand on a tablet resting on the table. "I should have brought this to you sooner. I kept hoping I was wrong." "Catherine, show me." She tapped the screen. Charts appeared. Blood test results spanning 4 months, overlaid with medication records. "Your daughter was receiving nearly 3 times her prescribed dose of blood thinners." She pointed to the spike patterns. "See these peaks? They correspond exactly with her evening medication times. The times her husband administered her pills." I stared at the data. Could it be an error? Pharmacy mistake? I checked with the pharmacy. They dispensed exactly what was prescribed. Someone was adding to it. She pulled up another file. Security footage from the hospital pharmacy. A figure in a baseball cap, face obscured, purchasing over-the-counter blood thinners. The timestamp was 3 months ago. I can't prove it's Derek. But this person bought enough additional medication to cause exactly the accumulation we found in Melissa's blood. My throat had closed up. "Show me the rest." Catherine walked me through 3 months of data. The pattern was undeniable. Every time Melissa showed improvement, something pushed her backward. Every time she stabilized, the next test showed elevated toxicity. She was being poisoned, Catherine said quietly. Slowly. Deliberately. Made to look like natural disease progression. If I hadn't run that extra panel after her death, we never would have known. Why didn't you tell the police? I tried. Catherine's voice was bitter. They said it was circumstantial. Said grief was making me paranoid. Without a confession or direct evidence of tampering, they couldn't act. She pressed a USB drive into my palm. Everything's on here. Lab results, pharmacy records, my notes. Keep it safe. What are you going to do? She asked. I looked at the charts showing my daughter's slow murder, at the evidence of betrayal spread across the screen. Find out exactly what happened. Every detail. I met her eyes, and make sure justice is served, one way or another. Catherine nodded slowly. Melissa was like a daughter to me, too. Whatever you need, copies, medical consultations, testimony, you have it. The drive home took 40 minutes through Houston traffic, but I didn't go home. I pulled into a library parking lot 3 miles from Derek's house and sat with the engine running. My phone rang. Derek. I watched his name flash on the screen until it went to voicemail. A minute later, the notification appeared. I played it on speaker. Dad, where are you? You mentioned the bank, but I called, and they said you weren't there. We need to talk about Melissa's estate, the life insurance. Call me back. His voice was warm, concerned, loving, completely false. I played it 2 more times, listening for cracks in the performance. There weren't any. He was good. He'd probably been practicing this role for months. I pulled out my notepad and started a new page. Listed everything I knew, everything I needed to find out. The blonde woman at the cemetery was at the top, underlined 3 times. Who was she? What was her connection to Derek? How did she fit into the plan? Because it was a plan. I was certain now. The life insurance increase 6 months ago. The slow poisoning, the devoted husband act, the pressure to handle Melissa's estate quickly. Someone had killed my daughter for money. Someone had calculated her worth and decided it was worth more than her life. And that someone was living in her house right now, probably wondering where I was, probably getting impatient to start spending his inheritance. My phone buzzed again. Another call from Derek. I let it ring out. I wasn't ready to go home yet. Wasn't ready to sit across from him at dinner and pretend I believed the act. Not while rage burned behind my eyes, cold and focused. I opened the notepad to a fresh page and wrote investigation log at the top, numbered each line, dated each entry, made it official. This was no longer about grief. This was about evidence, truth, and eventually justice. I started the car and pulled back onto the street, but I didn't turn toward home. Not yet. I had work to do first. The Houston Police Department's main station on Travis Street smelled like burnt coffee and floor cleaner. Detective Ramon Vega met me in a small interview room, his badge clipped to a worn belt. He looked tired, the kind of tired that comes from seeing too much. Mr. Patterson. He shook my hand, gestured to a chair. I'm sorry for your loss. I sat, placing Dr. Reyes's report on the table. My daughter was poisoned. These lab results prove elevated medication levels that couldn't have been accidental. Vega opened the file, flipped through pages covered in medical terminology. He sighed. I see the data, but proving deliberate poisoning without direct evidence. Someone witnessed administering extra doses, tampered pill bottles, purchase records linked to a specific person. The pharmacy footage shows someone buying the exact medication. Someone. His voice was gentle but firm. I can't identify that person. Neither can you. It could be anyone. You don't believe me. What I believe doesn't matter, Mr. Patterson. I need proof. Without it, my hands are tied. I'm sorry. I left the precinct with exactly what I'd expected. Sympathy, but no action. The system had limitations. I didn't. 2 days passed. I played the grieving father at Derek's house while my mind catalogued every detail, every inconsistency. Derek continued his performance, bringing me tea, asking about my well-being, slowly circling the topic of Melissa's estate like a patient predator. On the third day, I drove to the pharmacy near their house. Melissa had used this location for years. The pharmacist, an older woman named Gloria, remembered Melissa. Her face fell when I introduced myself. Your daughter, such a sweet woman, always asked about my grandchildren. I'm so sorry. I need to ask about her prescriptions. Did anyone else ever pick them up? Gloria's expression shifted. Concern, maybe confusion. Let me check the records. She typed into her computer, then stopped. Actually, yes. Her husband picked up the last 3 refills. Said Melissa was too weak to come herself. My pulse quickened. Did he ask any questions about the medication? Dosing? Gloria leaned back, thinking. Now that you mention it, he did ask how the pills could be crushed if she had trouble swallowing. I showed him they could be mixed into food or drinks. She'd shown him exactly how to poison my daughter undetected. The next week tested every ounce of patience I had. By day, I hired a private investigator named Marcus Cole, a former FBI agent with a reputation for discretion. By night, I sat across from Derek at dinner, nodding along to his sympathetic words while recording every conversation with a device hidden in my jacket pocket. Derek's pressure campaign escalated daily. Subtle at first, then more direct. Dad, Melissa would want us to handle her affairs quickly, not let things drag out. Have you thought about what to do with her jewelry? Some of those pieces are quite valuable. The life insurance company called. They need paperwork signed. I can handle it if you're not up to it. I played confused, overwhelmed. I suppose you're right. It is a lot to process. Each small concession strengthened his confidence. He was winning, or so he believed. Marcus's reports came daily by encrypted email. Subject meeting with unidentified female, blonde, late 20s. Same coffee shop, 3 times this week. Body language intimate. Photographs followed. Derek and the cemetery woman at a corner table, hands intertwined. Her laughing at something he said. Him checking his phone, texting, probably telling me he was stuck in traffic. On the 10th day, Marcus identified her. Vanessa Hartley, 29, works as a pharmaceutical sales rep. They've been seeing each other for at least 8 months. I have hotel receipts. 8 months. The affair started 2 months before Melissa got sick. The pieces were connecting. Marcus dug deeper. Bank records showed Derek had been transferring money to an account in Vanessa's name. $15,000 over 6 months. Small amounts, designed to avoid attention. Then Marcus found the emails. Derek had been careless, using his personal email for conversations he thought were private, but he'd also linked that email to a cloud backup service. And Vanessa had mentioned their anniversary trip to Cancun in a message that included a shared photo album. The album's metadata led to her email. Her email led to their entire correspondence. October. 4 months before Melissa died. Derek writing, "The pills are working. She's getting weaker. Doctor thinks it's the disease progressing." Vanessa's response, "How much longer?" November. Derek, "Increase the evening dose. She doesn't suspect anything. Thinks I'm the perfect husband." December. Vanessa, "The insurance policy is confirmed?" Derek, $750,000. Plus her trust fund. Will be set for life. January, 3 weeks before Melissa's death. Derek, "Almost time. She's barely conscious most evenings now." Vanessa, "I love you. Soon we'll be together for real." I sat in Marcus's office, reading their clinical discussion of murdering my daughter. They had planned it for months, researched medication interactions, calculated the timeline, waited for the perfect moment. Marcus's voice was quiet. "I'm sorry, Mr. Patterson. This is premeditated conspiracy to commit murder. You need to take this to the police immediately." I drove home through evening traffic, the USB drive containing everything on the seat beside me. I didn't feel grief anymore. That had burned away over the past weeks, leaving something colder and more focused. That evening, I sat across from Derek at dinner. He'd made pot roast. "Melissa's favorite," he said, dabbing his eyes. I've been thinking about what you said, about handling the estate quickly. Derek's entire posture changed. He leaned forward, attentive, supportive. Oh, Dad, I'm so glad you're being reasonable. It really is for the best. The life insurance paperwork. You said you could handle it? Absolutely. His smile could have lit the entire room. I'll take care of everything. You won't have to worry about any of it. Every word recorded, every manipulation documented. After he went upstairs, I called Sandra Mitchell, a civil attorney in downtown Houston specializing in wrongful death cases. We'd spoken earlier that week after Marcus recommended her. I have everything, I said. Emails, financial records, pharmaceutical evidence, the affair documentation. Bring it tomorrow morning, Sandra said. It's time to move. The next morning, I arrived at Sandra's office at 8:30 with 3 folders and 2 USB drives. Everything I'd gathered over 3 weeks. Sandra cleared her conference table and spent 2 hours reviewing it all. She made notes, cross-referenced dates, created a timeline on her legal pad. Finally, she looked up. Mr. Patterson, this is one of the most comprehensive cases I've seen. She tapped the printed emails. You have motive, opportunity, means, premeditation, and ongoing conspiracy. We need to take this to Detective Vega immediately. He closed the case. He'll reopen it when he sees these emails. Sandra reached for her phone. This isn't just wrongful death material. This is criminal evidence. Multiple felonies. Vega agreed to meet that afternoon. Sandra drove us to the precinct. We sat across from him in the same interview room where he'd told me his hands were tied. Sandra presented the evidence chronologically. The affair spanning 8 months. The emails discussing medication tampering. The financial transfers to Vanessa. The life insurance policy increase. Vega reviewed the emails carefully, particularly the January message about Melissa being barely conscious after evening doses. He pulled out Melissa's death certificate, checked the details. His expression hardened. This changes everything. He looked at me, and I saw genuine regret in his eyes. Mr. Patterson, I apologize for dismissing your concerns. I should have dug deeper. Can you act on this now? I'm reopening this as a homicide investigation. Full resources. He stood, collected the evidence. I'll be in touch within 48 hours. We're going after both of them. Vega moved quickly. Within 2 days, he obtained warrants for Derek's phone records, email accounts, and financial transactions. Vanessa was brought in for questioning on February 28th. Marcus called me that evening. Vanessa arrived at the precinct confident, left 3 hours later looking like she'd seen death. Vega confronted her with everything. The emails, the money transfers, the pharmacy footage that suddenly became more interesting when they knew what to look for. Vanessa had lawyered up immediately, stopped talking, but her reaction had confirmed guilt. 5 days later, March 5th, Marcus called urgently. Derek just showed up at Vanessa's apartment. You need to hear this. He'd positioned surveillance equipment nearby, anticipating exactly this scenario. The argument was explosive, Derek's voice rising. You talked to the cops? What did you tell them? Vanessa panicked. Nothing. I said nothing. Our emails? You promised those were deleted. I thought they were. The argument escalated. Derek tried maintaining control, but his composure was cracking too. Then Vanessa said it. I did what you asked. I got you the extra medication. I showed you how to crush it. You said we'd be together after the insurance came through. Derek's response was urgent, panicked. Keep your voice down. But it was too late. Marcus's recorder had captured everything. I forwarded the audio immediately to Vega. Within an hour, he texted back. Warrant issued for Derek Patterson. Conspiracy to commit murder. Moving on. Vanessa Hartley tomorrow, March 10th. I sat in my daughter's living room, the house quiet around me. At 6:14 a.m., 3 unmarked police vehicles pulled up outside. Detective Vega emerged first, followed by 4 uniformed officers. I opened the door before they could knock. Vega nodded once, silent acknowledgement between us. Then he called up the stairs. Derek Patterson, Houston Police. We have a warrant for your arrest. The sound of Derek's footsteps stopped. Silence stretched for 3 heartbeats. Then he appeared at the top of the stairs, wearing his bathrobe, confusion and fear crossing his face. What? There must be some mistake. Vega walked to the base of the stairs, holding up the warrant. You're being charged with conspiracy to commit first-degree murder in the death of Melissa Patterson. You have the right to remain silent. What? No. This is insane. An officer moved up the stairs. Derek backed away, but there was nowhere to go. They turned him around, placed handcuffs on his wrists. His eyes found me, standing calmly by the door. Understanding and rage hit him simultaneously. You did this. Vega guided him down the stairs, but Derek twisted toward me, his mask shattering completely. I'm your family! Melissa was my wife. My voice came out cold, steady. Melissa was my daughter, and you murdered her for insurance money. He lunged toward me, screaming, but the officers held him back. You senile old man, I'll destroy you. You have no idea what you're doing. Vega intervened firmly. Mr. Patterson, you need to come with us now. They led him toward the door. He was still shouting threats, promising lawsuits, calling me delusional. I watched through the window as they placed him in the back of a police car, his face contorted with fury visible through the glass. The vehicles pulled away. The house fell silent. After weeks of lies and manipulation, Derek was finally gone. The civil trial began in June. Sandra had filed a wrongful death lawsuit seeking $2 million against both Derek and Vanessa. The courtroom was formal, wood-paneled, American flag in the corner. Derek sat across the aisle with his defense attorney, wearing a conservative gray suit, attempting to project innocence. The jury filed in. Sandra rose for her opening statement. Members of the jury, the evidence will show that Derek Patterson and Vanessa Hartley conspired to murder Melissa Patterson for financial gain. Her voice was clear, methodical. They planned it for 8 months. Derek slowly poisoned his wife with excess blood thinners, making her death look like natural disease progression. Then they planned to collect $750,000 in life insurance and disappear together. The first week focused on motive. Sandra presented bank records, the insurance policy increase, the affair documentation. Dr. Reyes took the stand, professional and precise. She walked the jury through the blood toxicity levels, the impossible accumulation patterns, the medical impossibility of accidental overdose. The second week presented the conspiracy itself. Sandra displayed the emails on large screens, Derek discussing dosage increases, Vanessa responding with encouragement, their careful planning to make murder look like natural death. Then came the recorded confession from Marcus's surveillance. The courtroom fell silent as Vanessa's voice filled the space. I got you the extra medication. I showed you how to crush it. Several jurors leaned forward. This was the moment. Direct admission of conspiracy. By mid-July, even Derek's attorney seemed to recognize the case was lost. His cross-examinations became shorter, less aggressive. July 28th. The courtroom stirred when Vanessa entered, wearing jail orange, shackled. Part of her plea agreement required truthful testimony. For 3 hours, Vanessa detailed the conspiracy. Derek had approached her in May, said he wanted out of his marriage, but couldn't afford divorce. He proposed increasing Melissa's insurance, then slowly poisoning her. Vanessa would supply extra medication through her pharmaceutical connections. They'd split the money. She described Derek crushing pills into Melissa's evening tea. Described January, watching the news for reports of Melissa's hospitalization. Described Derek calling with fake tears. Something terrible happened. During Vanessa's testimony, Derek began shaking his head, whispering urgently to his attorney. As Vanessa described him coldly, calculating the dosage increases, he lost control. He stood, screaming, "You lying snake! You said you loved me! You said we'd be together!" The judge gavelled sharply. "I didn't force you to do anything. It was your idea, your plan." The judge ordered a recess. Bailiffs escorted the hysterical Derek from the courtroom. The jury had seen his mask completely shatter. August 18th. Sandra delivered her closing argument. Derek Patterson murdered his wife for money. The evidence proves it beyond any doubt. Melissa Patterson was 41 years old. She had decades of life ahead. She paused. Her father deserves justice. Melissa's memory deserves justice. August 20th. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. The foreman stood. In the matter of Patterson versus Patterson and Hartley, we, the jury, find for the plaintiff. We find that defendants Derek Patterson and Vanessa Hartley are liable for the wrongful death of Melissa Patterson. The foreman read the damages. $1.6 million. $800,000 for loss of companionship. $400,000 for emotional distress. $400,000 in punitive damages. I felt no triumph, only quiet satisfaction. Justice had spoken. The criminal sentencing took place 2 weeks later. Derek appeared in jail clothing, thinner, older looking than the 6 months ago when this began. The judge reviewed the plea agreement. Derek had accepted 20 years without parole rather than risk life imprisonment at trial. Mrs. Patterson, the judge said, you orchestrated your wife's murder for financial gain. You showed no mercy to Melissa Patterson. This court will show you none. The gavel fell. Derek was led away. He didn't look at me. Vanessa received 12 years for her role in the conspiracy. The insurance company formally voided Derek's claim. He would never see a cent of the money he'd killed for. 2 days after sentencing, I drove to the cemetery. Melissa's headstone was simple granite. Melissa Ann Patterson, 1983 to 2025. Beloved daughter. I stood before it, hands in my pockets, and spoke quietly. It's done, sweetheart. 20 years for him, 12 for her. They won't profit from what they did. I made sure of that. The words felt inadequate. I know it doesn't bring you back. Nothing can. But your death mattered. Justice was served. I placed my hand on the cool granite. I love you. I always will. A breeze moved through the cemetery. Autumn leaves scattered across the grass. Time to let Melissa rest. That evening, I sat on the porch of my Houston home as the sun set. I'd moved out of Derek's house months ago. Couldn't stand being surrounded by his presence. I opened an old photo album. Melissa as a child, gap-toothed smile. Melissa at high school graduation. Melissa accepting her nursing degree. Melissa and Derek's wedding. I paused at that photo, seeing his smile now as the mask it was. But I moved past it. More photos. Melissa at her birthday parties. Melissa laughing with friends. Melissa living. The album was full of a life that mattered. I closed the album as darkness settled. 6 months ago, I stood at a cemetery watching Derek whisper with Vanessa at my daughter's grave. That was the beginning. Now it's the ending. Justice has been delivered through proper channels. Derek will spend the next 2 decades in prison. Vanessa as well. The conspiracy they built has been completely dismantled. I don't feel triumph. Revenge stories suggest satisfaction, catharsis, closure. I feel none of those things. I feel tired. I feel older. But I also feel that I kept my promise to find the truth and make sure justice was served. Melissa's life mattered. Her death had consequences. That has to be enough. I sit as the stars emerge over Houston. My phone shows a message from Sandra. Final paperwork for the civil judgment. I'll read it tomorrow. Tonight, I just sit with Melissa's photo album on my lap, looking at the house I've called home for 40 years. Life continues. The pain of loss doesn't vanish with justice, but knowing the truth, seeing accountability delivered, provides something. Not peace exactly, but the absence of war. The fight is over. Melissa's killers have been punished. Tomorrow, I'll wake up and continue living, carrying my daughter's memory, knowing I did everything a father could do. Justice, imperfect and painful, has been restored, and somehow that will have to be enough. If you enjoyed this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. To hear another story, click the video on your screen. Thank you for watching.